Hey, it's John. Welcome back to the show. And welcome back to the latest edition of the Live Cuts. The premise of this series is to talk about live albums that don't get enough love or recognition. Before we talk about the live albums we will be discussing today, let me introduce my special guest today. You no doubt know him from his work on Grant's Rock Warehouse, on a plethora of most notably bands that you must know or must know about,
Yes.
as well as the panel shows which you do by our favorite 10 songs by year and many other stuff, one and done series, whole bunch of stuff. You will see DC Toontime on, and this is his return to my channel as well. DC, welcome to the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you, John. It's great to be here again. And as we were musing before we hit record, this is so great because when you and I are on these shows, we may get to exchange a line or two, but we really
Right.
can have an in-depth conversation. So I really welcome these opportunities to share the airwaves, as they would, I guess, be called, and talk about two live albums from Grand Funk Railroad separated by a mere 5 years. But there's a lot in that 5 years to discuss.
Absolutely. And those 5 years separated these two albums. This is Grand Funk's first album, live album called Live Album. DC is holding the original vinyl
Yes.
from 1970. This was released on November 16, 1970 on Capitol Records. This was a very successful album for Grand Funk. It went 2 times platinum in the United States. It hit the top 5 in the United States and Canada, top 10 in Japan, and number 17 on the R&B charts in the United
How
States.
about that for a fun fact, folks?
Absolutely. Not to be outdone or ignored is their other live album, which was a different era of Grand Funk, musically, stylistically. This is Caught in the Act. This was released in August 1975 on Capitol Records. One thing I forgot to mention is first album, the first Grand Funk live album was produced by Terry Knight. This album, Caught in the Act, was produced by Jimmy Ienner. This album, even though it had a lot of top 10 hits when they were in their original recordings, has actually not certified in the United States, which I think that's got to be a misprint. It hit number 21 in the United States and hit the top 40 in Japan and Canada. And this would come out right after their last studio album to date to go gold. Now, I didn't check greatest hits albums or anything.
Hmm.
And that last album was All the Girls in the World Beware.
Right.
So, we're going to talk about these albums today, talk about the differences in these albums, and there are a lot of differences, as DC pointed out, during a 5 year period. But before we get into that, DC, I'd like to ask you, when did you first get acquainted with Grand Funk or Grand Funk Railroad's music?
Okay. Um, I was a young lad at one time, if you folks can believe that. And in 1970, actually, I was a grade school youngster.
Mm-hmm.
But I had an older neighbor who was in high school, and he was pretty hip to all things in the music uh, biz that were going on at the time. And I played guitar. He knew that, and he would occasionally turn me on to stuff. And one day he said, "You have to see, or you have to listen to this album, this live album from Grand Funk Railroad. I think you're going to really like it." Comes over, we put it on the living room stereo console, and mind blown.
Oh, yes.
This album was a life changer for me. It resonated so strongly with me. that I had to go out that very afternoon as soon as my dad came home from work and have him drive me over to Heels department store to pick
Hills,
up
hills
that
or heels?
very Heels
Oh,
with
heels.
home
Okay, yeah,
Hills,
hills.
Hills, yeah, home of the 5 cent hot dog, folks.
There you
And
go.
I wouldn't get anywhere near a 5 cent hot dog even as a kid.
You're a smarty
what is
vet
in
then. All
what
right.
is in said meat. But anyway, my dad hopped in the car after dinner and we went over there and I purchased this album. Get home, I left it on the kitchen table. And just a little side note, my dad was also a guitarist and a very good singer and everything. And he's always interested in what was going on currently, even though his musical tastes were a bit earlier. And he's going down the song list and he gets to TNUC.
Mhm.
My dad figures it out pretty quick that that's something spelled backwards.
Yep.
And he goes, hey, Daryl, I'm looking at this out. What's this song, TNUC? And I honestly did not know. I just said, I don't know. Maybe it's code for something. And I guess my dad was satisfied that I was completely in the woods with that. And so he just went on with it. But no, this was a game changer for me in my love of music. And I latched on to this band big time. The fury, the feral aspect, the wheels are going to come off this thing. You could just feel it, but they never do. And the interplay between Mark on guitar, Mel on bass, and Don on drums. These guys were so locked in. Right from the get-go, these guys became my favorite band that was recording at the time. That's how much of an impact it had on me. This vinyl from this album has been worn out. Luckily, I have it on CD, so I don't go back to the vinyl anymore. But the amount of plays that this album got during my youth, my high school days, I can't even imagine the numbers. Constant rotation.
Very good. I gotta ask you, do you have
Yes.
the original vinyls of the albums that came after that? Like, did you go and just buy Survival and Phoenix and all those albums after?
I started working my way backwards, and I think I bought the Red album next because visually that was the one that was the most striking to me.
Okay.
Probably purchased again over at Hills.
Okay.
And I did work my way backward. And in the mix, there was like E Pluribus Funk was like, everything was coming pretty quick as when you look at that time period. I mean, 2 albums a year was the norm. So
Right.
as I was making money with various lawn cutting gigs and paper routes, I was working in my Grand Funk catalog to completion. So I can't give you the exact chronology, but of the earlier albums before this live one, I know the next purchase was the red one just because visually it struck me as this is a happening album.
Gotcha. So I heard Grand Funk on the radio when I was a kid. I heard the big hits, Some Kind of Wonderful, We're an American Band, Locomotion. But my first purchase, and I don't remember if my neighbor across the street gave me this or if I bought this at James Way,
Shit, there you go, folks.
Best of Grand
Oh,
Funk.
mm,
Remember they had these, they weren't official releases, but they were compilations and like a greatest hits, but they
yes.
weren't an official greatest hits. Well, that's what this is. And this is how I got into them. Now, it was interesting because they did Give Me Shelter on here.
Hmm.
And I'm like, isn't that a Stone song? And on side two, we got Feeling All Right. This was actually the original, the first time I heard Feeling All Right. I
Right.
didn't know Dave Mason wrote it until a few years later
Yeah.
when I was starting to get into Traffic. And then Blind Faith, I had that cassette after this one, and I
Hmm.
knew they did it too. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. They did Well All Right. They did the Buddy Holly song. My bad. All right.
Okay.
But I'm right about the Dave Mason one. Okay. So that was this was it. And this is what I had for a couple decades or so, maybe 25 years. And then I bought this probably on I think I bought it on Amazon.
Hmm.
And
What flipped your switch? Having that cassette of their hits, more of the pop type things. What flipped your switch to go into that live album and purchasing that?
when I still follow allmusic.com to this day.
Hmm.
And I read reviews about this on AllMusic, and AllMusic didn't give it a favorable review, but the people who put in their comments were like, "Oh my, no, 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 this is a fantastic live album,"
Yeah,
and
you got it all wrong. And
right,
music intelligentsia, you got
that's
it
what they
all
were
wrong.
saying
Yeah.
because they got that. They said, interestingly, DC, they also said that about Humble Pie's Rocket of Fillmore.
Well, there you go. And folks, check back into the archives here of John the Music Nut, and you'll find our retrospective of that fine live album, which is another of the benchmark live albums in my musical appreciation career.
Exactly.
That's a stunner as well.
Right. And I think I bought those two live albums probably, 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. To me, this, and I wrote a review on this. Now I'm going to give a different review and ranking today because I appreciate the songs more now than
Hmm.
I did then. I didn't like every song on the album back in 2013. But what I did say, and what was the title of my review, was the most exciting live album ever made.
Oh, agreed.
And I still feel that way. It's
John, can you not just, so you're sitting there wherever you may be sitting there listening, can you not feel the electricity coming through? I
exactly.
can. This crowd was just like on fire for these cats, and they weren't well known. These guys just came out of the blue and made an impact and resonated with a live audience like no band has in a good long while. And you can, it's palpable. You can feel it along with the performance. There is a lot of unplanned screeches and feedback and everything that
Yes.
just adds to the feral overall presentation of this band live. It's a stunner. I mean, I may be a little biased in my critique, but I can feel it through the speakers. To this day, there are moments that can give me goosebumps listening to this first live album.
What I've always loved about this album, as someone who used to play bass,
Mm,
is the
yes,
bass
sir.
so up in a mix.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
think I've heard bass recorded as well as Mel's playing here on live album.
John, isn't it so different for a trio to have that aspect with your bass player being right there in the
Mm-hmm.
mix? This is one of the really unusual things about Grand Funk Railroad, because not only was Mel the liaison between the rhythmic and the musical, working with Don in one respect, but worked with Mark almost as a second guitar
Yes.
at times, playing certain runs while Mark would play something else. And it just added to the richness of a trio, which is very difficult when you've got three players to make it interesting for a whole show. It is tough. But Mel, like you said, Mel brought it and he added another element that I can't think of a trio where the bass player had quite that role as Mel did in Grand Funk.
I don't, yeah, I can't think of one either. I mean, maybe Primus, but they're a totally different type
Oh,
of,
that's totally different animal, kind of.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're a totally different animal.
Yep.
But a lot of times you have Marks just playing chords and just strumming, and it's Mel's bass lines that are really, really carrying the song.
Great point. Yeah, that milk almost takes over at times. It's like there's two focuses within the song, but they're both playing off each other so well that it doesn't resonate with you as just something that's fighting the other side. It just works perfectly between the two of them and between the three of them, which is part of what the damn shame about how they stand today as a group. But we'll get into that later on.
Well, and we're talking a lot right now about this first live album called Live Album by Grand Funk. Let's just go over some of the particulars on here. We had Mark Farner on guitar, piano, harmonica, and lead vocals. And at this point, he was the lead vocalist.
Yep. He was
That
the man. Yep.
he was the man at this point. Mel Shaker on bass, Don Brewer on drums and vocals. Mel and Don are still in the band today. The shows that were recorded for this album were June 23, 1970 at Jacksonville Coliseum in Jacksonville, Florida, and the following night, June 24, 1970 at West Palm Beach Civic Auditorium. So the notes that I have here is a lot of stuff that I was already saying to you, DC. And one thing about this band at this point, they were an FM radio band. And back at that time, and DC knew this well before I did, most of the popular music was getting on AM radio.
Yes.
You wanted a hit, you had to get it to AM. They weren't getting AM radio hits yet. They were more of an FM band, FM radio band,
Yeah,
where they would
totally
allow.
different. Yeah, John, totally different animal at the time. Yeah,
Yes.
people, I don't know, to modern sensibilities, if they could wrap their head around what AM and FM meant at that time period. Totally different animal. I mean, longer tracks, of course, not as much commercial appeal, although it was there, but they were two different kind of animals, and you normally catered to one or the other. And at that time, like you say, Grand Funk was firmly in the FM radio mode.
And in my opinion, I would the DJs had a lot more freedom then
Oh
because
my
you
God,
could hear
yes.
album tracks then. You were hearing albums in their entirety late night. And
Yes.
I grew up in the 70s, so I knew AM radio and FM radio were different from a very young age. I mean, I listened to AM radio first.
Hmm.
It was a 1980 or 81 when we had a top 40 station here that was really popular to this day, WKRZ FM, and our classic rock station, Rock 107, WEZX FM, Scranton, Pennsylvania,
There
the
you
home
go.
of rock and roll. Still locally owned and operated. I say this as often as I can. They're still getting it done these days with their set list, which is expanded into the 90s and 2000 songs. But FM, this was a band like if Rock 107 was around back then, like maybe 10 years earlier, 1970. I think they came out in 1980.
Hmm.
Yes, you would have been hearing a lot off of this album on there back at that time when
Yeah.
there was a lot more freedom and DJs got to play what they want. It wasn't, okay, you got to stick with this set list. Whereas these days, well, for a long time at Rock 107, because I only know this because I have a friend who's worked there for a long time. They had to stay to a specific set list. They couldn't play anything past 2000 at one point, but now they're
Hmm.
starting to play songs after 2000, probably because there was more demand for it, because now those people who are coming of age then are in their 30s and they want to hear what they heard back in their youth.
Yeah. I'm glad you gave some love to that independent FM classic rock station because we have one here in Central Illinois, and I've lived in a few places in my life. It is hands down the best FM classic rock station. You'll hear like Sly and the Family Stone, then Black Sabbath, then James Taylor, then Brothers Johnson. I mean, it is such an eclectic mix. And also, what you mentioned and what I love, they give their DJs the freedom to go off the playlist, and they do quite often. I mean, it is really refreshing to hear. And I'm losing the call letters.
Okay.
105.5 W. Mike Hale. I can't, man, I can't. I don't remember the call, but if you look up Central Illinois Classic Rocks, if you're curious, I think they broadcast over the interwebs as well. But you give that a listen.
Very good. Awesome. So with this album, as we were saying, it's a power trio, but a different kind of power trio with Mel getting a lot more attention in the mix. It's not based around the guitar player. Mark was a good guitar player, but he played for the song. With about what
Hmm.
Mark had on this album in spades was an unending charisma and a
Yes,
massive rapport with the audience.
he is the quintessential front man, and he does not get enough credit for that. I love his voice. It is so soulful and powerful, but he is a showman of the utmost. And can you imagine when Humble Pie and Grand Funk used to share a bill? Those two
Oh, yeah.
dynamos of Steve Marriott, and then you get Mark Farner. Yeah, I agree, John. Mark does not get the credit he deserves as a front man. Vocal is fantastic, and the right guitarist for the right band.
Yes.
That's what Mark is. He plays to the song. I agree, John. Absolutely.
And we have 9 proper songs because we have an introduction, and then words of wisdom is more Mark talking to the audience. Someone offers you something, don't take it.
Don't take it.
Don't take
Don't
it.
take it. They may be your brother, but they're not.
Yeah.
And when they hand you something, don't take it. Don't take it. Thank you, Mark.
It's exactly. The songs are longer on here. That doesn't necessarily mean they're progressive songs. The
Hmm.
songs are they're pretty basic, strong song structures on here. You know, chorus, diverse to chorus, an occasional good bridge on here, which I love, especially on the song In Need. I think that is a wonderful bridge on there. And you got that great call and response vocal between
Agreed.
Mark and Don.
Yes.
And
They
you got the
work so
harmonic
well
solo too.
together, John, vocally. Again, such a shame what's happened to this band. And we'll get into that when we discuss the second live album, what I've really noted.
Exactly. Mean Mistreater was a single. It actually almost hit the top 40 in the US. And the version that's on here is actually the live version from live album,
Oh, how
believe
about that?
it. Yes, it is. So that was a almost a top 40 hit, or hit number 47. Inside Looking Out, I don't know if that was the B side or if that was a second single, and that was a cover of the Animals song.
Hmm. Yeah, this
And
band wasn't adverse to doing cover tunes their whole career.
right,
Had no
exactly.
problem with that.
But to their credit, more often than not, they made the songs their own.
Agreed. And even on a Stones classic like Gimme Shelter, that Grand Funk leaves its impression on that song big time. You know it's Give Me Shelter, but it's Grand Funk's version of Gimme Shelter.
It's a more driving
Oh,
song.
absolutely.
The more driving song, that sense of drama that you have the Rolling Stones original.
Hmm.
Yeah, they definitely made it their own. But Are You Ready opens this album proper. What a wicked opener.
Oh. When we get into comparing the two live albums, the band had changed by the second live album. I prefer the opening of Are You Ready? But I can see why once they move further on down the line, they opened with a couple of their party rock and roll hit type tunes. But the veracity with Are You Ready just opening up the thing just explodes. And you could feel the audience just taking this all in and probably thinking, how in the hell are three guys putting out this wall of incredible, wild musical power? Mm.
Absolutely. But just a couple things though. One, Grand Funk actually opened with Are You Ready on the tour, but they didn't add it on the album. It was the only song.
Oh, that's a great fun fact, John. See, even an old dog like myself can be educated.
It's in the liner.
Oh, how in the world could you, when you've got that kind of I saw a latter version of Grand Funk and they eschewed Are You Ready and went to just starting off with foot stomping music. But I was not aware of that at that 75 concert. Wow.
Yeah.
I agree with the boys. Yeah, don't ever retire. Are you ready?
Number two, it's funny you said that you saw a later version of Grand Funk Railroad because I did as well. I saw him in 2012. Now, by this point, it's Mel and Don. They got Max Carl. I forget who played keyboards and organ. He did a good job. I forget who it was. And
Hmm.
they had Bruce Kulick, who was in Kiss for many, many years. And he spent
Right.
a lot of time at Grand Funk Railroad. They put on a good show, but they opened with foot stomping music. They did not play Are You Ready Now?
Hmm. Did you
Yeah.
feel when you went to that show? I felt because I've seen the regrouped Grand Funk with Mark, but not with Mel. And then I saw the group you mentioned that's got Max Carl out front. And I just could feel that Mark Farner's presence was so missing to that
Yes.
band. It just like limp noodle. It was a good show, but compared to when Mark's the headmaster, their center of everything that's going on, the entertainer, just didn't work for me. And it's funny because as my wife and I were sitting there taking this all in, there's so many people that are marginal Grand Funk Railroad fans.
Mhm.
Max Carl does look a hell of a lot like Mark Farner. If you took Mark Farner at 5 foot whatever and stretched him out to 6'3", this
Yeah,
lady
that's
goes,
true.
he goes, I had no idea Mark Farner was that tall. Ma'am, that is not Mr. Mark Farner. But here's a good one. When I saw the regrouped Grand Funk Railroad with Mark, Don, and Dennis Bellinger on bass, they started with foot stomping music, and they came out. Ba-dum, 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 din, 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 Mark's on the keys, and then he leaves the keys and he comes to the mic with his guitar, and he goes, "Does everybody want to?" Nothing.
Mm.
Nothing on his guitar.
Oh,
And Don and Dennis are just like, the roadies are running all over the place. They never could figure out what the hell was going on. So they just stopped the show, got everything right, and then came back and did it again. So,
okay. Now was that in the early '80s when they did
yes,
What's
yes.
Funk and
Yeah,
Grand Funk?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, awesome, very very cool. So, but I think the songs on here, most of the songs on here, I always like from the get go. Paranoid, not the Black Sabbath song.
Hmm.
This is a heavier song than a Black Sabbath Paranoid. And I
Yeah,
love Black Sabbath, but Grand Funk song Paranoid is very, very heavy. This
yes.
really has Mel's bass up in the mix. He's playing it with a wah wah.
Hmm.
That really adds to the fire on this.
It does, truly.
Fantastic song. And you got great call and response in the choruses there between Mel, not Mel, Mark and
Dawn.
Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a wicked song on here.
Yeah,
We
that is something that needs to be upplayed a little bit is the interplay between Mark and Dawn vocally, whether it's just a line or two here and there or a response that you'd get that screech from Dawn in the background. Those two cats work so well together vocally, which adds another layer of sadness as to what's transpired. But like I say, we'll get into that in a little later.
exactly. A lot of songs on here are longer, but they're cool jams, but they they take you to like different places. They played them with so much passion and fire.
Hmm.
Mark says all right. It's more like a rave up led by
Mel.
Mel. And then
And and then at the very end, Mark just screeches out, "All right," and then boo doo doo. Then we get into the aforementioned TNUC.
yes, we got long drum solos on both of these albums, ladies.
I tell you, John, that is the one thing that I will say that has not aged well for old DC
Yes,
is to listen to a drum solo on an L. And if you were there to watch it, it's one thing. The
right.
one cat who I can listen to a drum solo and not necessarily see it was Neil Peart with Rush.
Yes, I
So
got
inventive. It's just like what? It's musical and rhythmic somehow. But yeah, the only thing that's really dated in my mind are the long drum solos. Not so much a fan these days.
Yeah, I feel the same thing. And I was like, I felt, and they're both long. And the thing with Neil Peart solos, he changed them up every tour.
Hmm.
And they wouldn't be as long. Maybe they were more around the 4 or 5 minute mark. Here you're going more like 8 minutes or so with the drum solo.
Right.
Like Ginger Baker, I always loved from back in the day too. I can still listen to him.
Hmm.
And recipes Neil Peart too. But yes, I agree with that.
I had another thought, John, as you're mentioning this album, in that every song that's on this album nowadays, I only want to listen to the live version because when I listen to the studio versions of all these songs, like when you listen to Are You Ready from the first studio album proper, it sounds like kind of like a drudge to me when you're
Okay.
used to the energy and they speed up the songs just a little bit live, that when I listen to the studio version, it just doesn't resonate the same way with me. So,
I would agree with that because I've heard a lot of the studio versions. I don't own the originals. I don't own the studio albums,
mhm,
but I've heard a lot of these, and yes, they're played with a lot more fire and vigor live, and they
yeah,
definitely speed up the tempo. Like these are like the definitive versions.
exactly.
Now, when we go into this album,
Yes, sir.
this is a different animal because now, in addition to Mark and Mel and Don, we have Craig Frost on percussion, keyboards, and backing vocals.
Yep.
And like Mel was in 70, Craig is a very integral part of this band. Sometimes too much, in my opinion.
Mm.
What you hear on here is you still hear Mel, but not as much Mel. A lot of times it's the organ that's carrying the rhythm.
That's a great point, John. Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. It's almost like it's a team up thing, but you're not getting what the bass brings, and you're getting more with the same thing, but with a keyboard playing it, and it just doesn't come across the same way. Agreed. Yes.
This album was released in 1975. It was recorded during three dates: February 7, 1975, at Holman Center in Terre Haute, Indiana; February 8th, 1975, at Toledo Sports Arena, Toledo, Ohio; and February 9, 1975, at Baltimore Civic Center, Baltimore, Maryland. Produced by Jimmy Einer. And with this band, it's a totally different band because by this point, they were now having AM radio hits,
Yep.
number one hits, two number one hits. And we're an American band and Locomotion
Yeah.
and other top 10 hits like Some Kind of Wonderful and Bad Time. Although Bad Time isn't on this album, although I
Right.
love that song to death.
It's just a incredible slice of mid 70s pop.
It
Just
is.
I never tire of that tune.
Me neither. That might be my favorite Grand Funk song, period.
It's of this period. Yeah, it's just every benchmark you hope to hit with a AM pop rock radio hit that song has. And the thing was with Grand Funk, they could kind of see the writing on the wall. And when Terry Knight just he cheated the band in so many ways, and then they parted ways, that was a horrible time for them. But it may have been the best thing that happened to them in the long run
Right.
because it set those boys adrift, the three of them. And you could tell on that Phoenix album, they were trying to feel their way. Where do we go from here? Because we see the FM radio paradigm collapsing and the AM aspect of bands that want to have a career in longevity and popularity taking over, but they didn't quite know what direction to go in. I mean, that Phoenix album to me has got so much country weaved in, country music. Of
Mm.
course, they recorded in Nashville. They did bring in Craig Frost, but I don't think they knew what to do with Craig at that time because Craig's pretty much following a lot of what Mark's doing and not operating in separate but working together tangents. So, what was the genius aspect of all of this? They get Todd Rundgren to produce them. And I love the guy. And whether you love him or hate him, this guy had a real handle on what would work in the commercial realm of AM radio and pop music. And in my opinion, Grand Funk Railroad couldn't have made a better choice than Todd. And he brought them to another point in popularity, allowed these guys to make buku dollars and be more resonant and more front and center in the rock music world at that time because it was changing. Got him hits, everything that comes with that. So, out of the ashes of a very bad situation, these guys turned the corner and went in the perfect direction for the mid 70s, in my opinion. There are other people that would disagree and absolutely hate Grand Funk. Anything after E Pluribus Funk, they don't even like the Phoenix album, and they sure as hell don't like the Rundgren On albums at all. But hey, it's just like food. You like what you like, and what you don't like, eschew it. No one's forcing you. But I like all versions of this band, but this is a very different animal.
I think the most important thing that Todd did with this band, I mean, he tightened them up. He had them writing more hooks with their songs.
Mhm.
He had Don singing the vocals, the leads now.
I think, yeah, and it's something that Don did a little by little, a little bit more, starting with Survival.
Okay.
He was taking the lead, a couple leads, but certainly was not anywhere near what the amount of songs that Mark was singing as opposed to Don. And I agree. Once Todd came on board, he thought, we're going to utilize this Don Brewer a little bit more. And it just added another flavor to the band, worked out fantastically. So it's all good in the great scheme of things.
We are talking about the differences between this band between 70 and 75, practically two different bands. You really hear that on the three songs that repeats from these albums. Heartbreaker, for example, on live album has this sense of drama. It
Hmm.
sounds almost like a 60s R&B song the way it's recorded, but
Yep.
there's a lot of space in between the notes. We're mostly just focusing on Mark's voice. When we get to the version on Cottony Act, it's played like a shuffle.
Agreed. Good point. That's an excellent point. Yes.
And in my opinion, I want the original. I want the one from live album. The version.
I'm right there with you on all three of the ones that appeared on the first live album. In this one, I prefer the original live versions.
I particularly feel that way about Inside Looking Out.
Yeah, it's too it as odd as it seems like the stripped down gives it more resonance to my ears and more impact.
More
Whereas
emotion.
when you're more emotion, and then when you're adding the flourishes of the keys into the mix, I think it takes away from that aspect. Still fine. I mean, I wouldn't be like rolling my eyes if I was at the show, but of the
Right.
two version, I prefer the earlier one. And maybe people that don't have never even heard that first version, this is what they know and love. So it may be just like what you're familiar with and what you
Right.
fell in love with to begin with. But I don't know. I think we both have discerning ears where we give everything a chance in all honesty. At a gut level, those original versions on that first live album, that's what I like.
And I feel that way as well. One thing we didn't have on here was overdubs.
No, it's straight from the
Just
boards,
take them
folks.
aboard, warts and all.
Yeah, and you can hear all that stuff that wasn't quite polished, but that adds to the vibe and the resonance and how it hits you. If they went in there and tweaked all that stuff, it wouldn't have the same effect on the listener.
I agree. And here it's a more professional Grand Funk,
Polished,
more polished Grand
very
Funk.
polished, John.
It's very good,
Hmm.
but it doesn't give you that same feeling.
I
It
know.
not that whole I wish I was there feeling
Yep.
that you have from here. Now, that's not to say this isn't without merit.
Hmm.
I think Craig Frost brings a lot to the later songs on here.
Agreed, man. Exactly, John. Go ahead. Carry on.
Shining On is not shining on without that organ. Shining On, the organ on organ makes Shining On a badass song. It is wicked.
That may be my favorite post American band on Grand Funk song. That it just, it's the tippity top. I
Yes,
love it.
almost a top 10 hit in the States too, but it doesn't sound like any of their other hits. It just
No.
doesn't pass. It's surprising that it charted that high, but it is a kick ass track, and the organs really work on here. And Don's vocal on here is awesome. And well, on the original, I think Don was singing all the leads, but on here, I think Don and Mark are switching
They
off. Am I
switch
correct?
off a little bit, John. You're right.
Right.
And another cool thing when you're talking about the latter day version of Grand Funk and what Craig Frost went brung to the equation, not only on Shine It On, but on this album, we also get the Railroad
Yes.
and the keys and the rhythmic uh, cadence that Brewer gets. And you also hear like someone hitting a railroad spike. And I don't
Yes.
know who's doing that, but it is the syncopation and everything there is so cool. And like I say, when they started approaching these songs as a foursome, you notice that now they know what to do with Craig and incorporating him onto these new songs, whereas they had to fit him in where they could with the three-piece material. So it's a different animal. So
Definitely. But I mean, where he shines is, like on the later albums, like when Todd was getting it all, but foot stomping music, the organ works magnificently on that.
mhm.
That was a top 40 hit here in the States. And, it's led off a lot of their shows over the years. And like when you and I saw them did you see them in 2012? Like when you saw them
It's
with Bruce and Max in there?
yeah, it may have been a little bit earlier than that.
Okay.
I saw him at a casino in
I did
Indiana.
too. I saw them at a casino too.
It may have been the same show, John. I don't know.
It was Mount Airy, about an hour from here in Mount Pocono.
Yeah, this was closer to Indianapolis, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, when I saw them then, like I said, I already gave my spiel about what I felt like things over were overall. But um, on that note, the very beginning of this album from '75, you get background uh, recordings of the band before they hit the stage. And Mark's hollering to one of the roadies, I gotta have another axe. Broke my E string or something. And the whole band is backstage laughing it up. They're doing a little a cappella thing to foot stomp, not foot stomping music, rock and roll soul. You could see imagine all four of them in a circle clapping and singing nothing but a party. These four guys loved playing with each other and
Okay.
they had to love each other, which again, what a shame what happened between them. Oddly, the one who got stiffed, Mark, is the one that wants to reconcile.
Yes.
Craig, I don't know. I think he would join in if the other guys decided to get together, but he's pretty much, I don't know what he's doing
I'm
these
not sure
days,
either.
but he's not front and center anymore. But what a shame because these guys went through so many incredible experiences, loved playing together, and then it just all blew up. So, what
Now
can
what
one do?
I'm sorry. Now what
What
they
what
did,
can one do?
yeah, exactly. What can one do? When they went and they remastered this on CD, they put it out on CD originally, I'm gonna say 91, and then they remastered it again 2003. They made a few changes to it. They took out the introduction. So I've never heard the introduction that was on Caught in the Axe.
Oh, okay.
So, but what one thing that they did was on the original album and the vinyl, when they went from Closer to Home into Heartbreaker, it
Hmm.
was on the original album, Closer to Home, it faded out. And I believe that's the way it was when they first put it on CD. When they put this back out and remastered this on CD, they put it in the way they did it live, how they would just go right into
Yeah,
Heartbreak.
it was like do 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 boom ba doo ba doo boop ba doo ba doo ba doo ba doo, and then Craig's adding those keyboards did it because they're coming off of these party songs
Mhm.
and then heading into something else. So that's the transition between. Oh, I'm talking about transition between rock and roll soul to closer to home because you're going from party numbers to a more reflective, somber tune, and they bust down the partiness a little bit to transition into closer to home. Always loved that transition that you hear in this second live album. It's very cool.
Exactly. Another thing they did with this album is they cut out a lot of the audience noise.
Hmm.
They did that so they could put the full drum solo from TNUC on here.
Well, you don't want to miss any drum beat of that, John. You want
Yeah.
to get the full 8 minutes or whatever it is.
They gave us the full version and the full version of Gimme Shelter at the end too.
Hmm.
So I believe so what I understand is that was shortened on the original version just to get it onto two records. But here we used up nearly 80 minutes at 79 minutes and 8 seconds on it. But you gotta do that. I mean, if there's 13 songs and you still got a lot of them clocking in at 10 minutes or so, you gotta make some concessions.
I
But
I think John, in a lot of ways, Grand Funk understood the quandary they were in trying to hold on to their old fans, yet
Mhm,
embrace the newer ones that loved their pop sensibilities and weren't there in 1970 for that stuff. They
exactly.
Because when they segue from songs in this live performance, the second album, they're trying to satisfy both groups of fans, saying we're not going to go too much with our pop version of this band, and then we're going to bring it back to the old stuff, but then we're going to bring it back to the pop stuff that is current. So I think they did a good job, and I think the band was very cognizant of how much they had changed, but yet wanting to keep everybody happy. So,
Exactly. Black Licorice is a kick-ass song.
oh my, oh my, that's another one right up there with Shining On.
Yes,
That cooks.
it does. Excellent track. So it's interesting because Mark Farner has been torn recently. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see him because fortunately I got sick. But
Hmm.
when you go to see him now, he's opening with Are You Ready? And I believe
Yeah.
playing more of the stuff from live album,
Hmm.
more
I
of the early stuff.
I don't think he's playing TNUC these days,
No, I
though.
don't think so.
But was Black Licorice? I listened to that song for so many years, and I could never figure out what the background line is that they're singing. They're singing, "She's killing me, she's killing me." And I didn't know what they were singing for many years. And of course, we didn't have the search engines and that sort of go-to. But yeah, she's killing me. Like you're killing me, Smalls.
Exactly. We have background singers on Pontiac
Oh,
too, and Lorraine Feather and Jana Gislin. They're really bringing the soul to a lot of these songs, most particularly Some Kind of Wonderful.
yeah. The funky
The
funkettes.
Funkettes. Okay. So, as far as the recordings, what are your feelings on how these are recorded?
Well, of course, we talked about the 1970 concert. It suits the band and the material at that time.
Mhm.
It's raw, it's feral, ferocious, and squelches and feedback and all. We ain't changing a damn thing. Now, the second album, of course, like you said, they are a much more polished band now and going with a more pop rock kind of vibe. So the recording of that, you know, goes together with the changes in the band and as far as how that live album is presented. It's very polished and yeah, it just suits the band at that time.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I would agree with you on that, but I'm preferable to live album because it's just so it's raw, but yet it's a raw production, but the band is so tight. It's not that the band is raw.
No,
It's
not at
more that
all.
the recording is like a little like we don't have the bells and whistles here. And it's just a tight kick-ass power trio with a heavy emphasis on the bass. And here it's more like I said, more professional.
Hmm.
It's a very good sounding album. I would definitely say that. But it's just it's a very good album, but it doesn't have that same you don't get the same feeling from it.
Agreed. The first live album will always reign supreme for me, but I think the thinking of the second was courting a new audience, and I don't think they even as a band they approach things like they did in 1970. So I don't know even if they went for a more raw presentation if it would have come off like it did in 1970 because there were recording things and there were aspects of how you the levels of things when you were recording a live show that weren't as well known in 70 as 75. So, but I mean, it was of the time, and I think they were more worried about presenting their band in that kind of paradigm of 1975 and where things were.
What was the earliest version of Grand Funk that you saw?
The earliest one, I mean, I missed funny because that second live album, when they were in Cleveland, Ohio, which was closest to me and able to see this band live at that time and finally having access to wheels and being able to drive. Their show in Cleveland was the same night as our senior prom. And
Oh,
all the girlfriends, oh, you're not going to go to Grand. I said, we thought, you know what? Grand Funk will be back. We'll see him next go round. Never came back.
oh,
They never hit. I mean, with the subsequent albums after that live one hit the street, I don't know if they hit Cleveland. They may very well have had, but yeah, that opportunity for that tour and that show coincided with a high school event that we kind of felt compelled to attend. So I
ah,
never saw the original
right.
3 or 4 because even when I saw the 3, it wasn't Mel on bass.
Right.
So sadly, was not to be.
Hmm. It's a bummer, but at the time you gotta do what you gotta do, and I can see that. Oh, they'll be back next year. They always coming.
At that age, they were so big, and you decide, yeah, they'll have another album coming out in 6 months. They'll tour. They'll come to Cleveland. Just you wait, and we'll go then. Didn't happen. Oh well. I talked to my one of my other Grand Funk friends from high school at our recent reunion, and that did come up. And
Oh yeah.
he goes, what a bunch of dolts.
Awesome. All right. So, how would you rank these two bad boys? Oh, let me get it right side up.
Well, John, if I'm going to go numerically, and if I'm going to go with the impact that these albums had on my life, that first live album's a Stone Cold 10.
Okay.
There's personally, that album changed everything for me because I was a big music fan before. But once I hopped on the Grand Funk Railroad, it changed my looking at other bands that opened me up to investigating this, that, and the other thing. But that live album resonated with me so much at such a time in my life where you are going to be influenced strongly by these sorts of things. That's a 10. The second live album, I like it a lot. Like I say, I don't go to it very often to listen to. 7.5,
Okay.
8. It's good. It's good for what it is, but it can't hold a candle to the first one.
Okay.
How about yourself?
Similar sentiments. At one point, I would have ranked this a little lower because
Hmm.
I wasn't a big fan of Heartbreaker and Mean Mistreater, but over time, those songs really grew on me.
Hmm.
Now, these days, I would give it a 9.5.
Hmm.
I still put it in my 5 disc CD changer, and I still get that feeling that I got when I first bought the CD. I think I to this day I still think it's the most exciting live album ever released by a rock band. That's
Hmm.
just how I feel, and I love that includes Kiss Alive one, which knocked my socks off when I was 13 years old. When I
See,
first
see, you
bought
were you were at the age I was when I was introduced to that first Grand Funk
it.
album.
Right?
And there's that age we are where everything has such a overwhelming influence in our tastes and everything. So you with Kiss and with me, it was Grand Funk because folks,
Yes.
I'm a much older cat, but I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah. And this I would give an 8 because I do quite like this. I'm not
Hmm.
as high on the 3 songs that repeat from live album, but the newer songs, particularly the ones that Todd was producing at that point, the studio albums, I think those songs rock. I love the version of Shining On here. I love the opener Footstop of Music. I realized that was pre-Todd, but Black Licorice kicks ass. I like the version of the locomotion, some kind of wonderful's a good time. It's very, very joyous. So there's a lot I like on it, but over time, I don't know if I'm gonna listen to this as often as the first live album. But
Hmm.
I'm I'm glad that I now own this and I really, really enjoyed it. So this is an 8 for me, and live album is a 9.5.
There we
So
go. We're right in the same wheelhouse.
right. Absolutely. So, to all of you out there who've been watching, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you,
What
folks.
you got it. Your, what would you choose between Grand Funk Live Album and Grand Funk's Caught in the Act? Are you a big Grand Funk fan? Are you a bigger fan of the studio albums than the live albums? What are your favorite albums by Grand Funk? What are your favorite songs by Grand Funk? Please let us know in the comments. DC, thank you
Oh,
so
thank you,
much.
John. This is always a pleasure. Anytime you want to have me back, my schedule's fairly open, folks. And plus, I enjoy talking to you. And like we said before we even hopped on here, we rarely get a chance to really converse because when we're on programs, it's like a sentence here and a sentence there.
That's
So
it.
I really relish these times that we can get together and compare notes on these albums. So thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you. And thank you for coming up with this topic too. It DC said, let's compare the two.
Yeah, I thought that would be an interesting experiment.
Yes, and I think it worked flawlessly.
Okay.
So, one more thing I want to ask you, DC, what do
Yes.
you have lined up on Grant's Rock Warehouse?
Oh, let me see. Well, oddly enough, I think we're doing a Tubes retrospective,
Okay, that's right.
and the next will be the early 80s. And other than that, I don't really have anything carved in stone other than our next top 10 for the year. What will we be at?
99.
99. So that will be it. I don't have anything else. I'm pretty loosey-goosey here.
All right. Any more bands that you should know?
Oh, of course, John. Every Wednesday I do a show with Grant, um, bands that you should know. And a lot of times we will have guests on there. But occasionally it'll be up to me and Grant to pick the groups or the artists. But that's an every Wednesday thing on Grant's Rock Warehouse. So thank you for reminding me. I forgot
Got it.
about that, but that is an every Wednesday kind of thing.
Excellent, DC. I gotta get a chance to tune in to one of them. Usually Wednesday nights. I'm visiting my mom, so I don't get a chance. But I gotta catch more of those on the replays because I'm seeing some of the thumbnails and some of those bands I know a little bit about, and I just want to get deep
Hmm.
into.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes you could get turned on to something that just like you're kind of astonished that you hadn't heard of them or heard a tune or anything about them before. And bottom line is, there's so much music that's already out there. I'll be well into my dirt nap, and there'll be plenty of stuff that passed me by. So don't worry about it too much, folks. But if you want to get turned on to some new things, there may be something that really flips your switch. So
There you go. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Do what you love, and we'll talk to you soon.